We were both going to USC Film School. She was about a semester older than me, and so she was a legend when I came into film school. Everyone wanted to work with her. There was a senior thesis project that they only choose one director for and one writer for, and she wasn't even a senior yet, and yet her script was chosen, and she was chosen to shoot it. So she was like the writer and cinematographer for the thesis film, which was unheard of. And so when I was going to that school, it was like Alice Brooks this, Alex Brooks that. So she was the superstar. So the fact that I got to convince her to do my short film, my senior thesis film years later, was like a huge coup. This was like 2001, 2002, around there. So Chicago had not come out yet, but was about to. Moulin Rouge was out, but wasn't like a big commercial success. So literally the musicals were dead at that moment. But they were about to come back to life, which served us well. And this was our first sort of real musical together. And then we never stopped since then. And then by the time we came to In the Heights, we had made a lot of mistakes. So we already knew what to avoid and then also where to push harder. Of course, we had great music with Lin-Manuel Miranda, and Alex Lacamoire. We equipped our iPhones with moment lenses, and I had my A7S 2 or 3 at the time. Spent a lot of money at B&H, and then we would cut these little things together. So Alice would shoot, I would shoot these little rehearsals, but it would be a great template for us to know where we're headed.
For When the Sun Goes Down, where Nina and Benny are dancing on the side of the building, that took from the moment we started prepping to the very last thing we shot to get that right. And it started with a model, and then we went into this motion capture space studio one weekend, and it was me and Jon and the visual effects people and Christopher Scott and 2 dancers. And we were able to start to explore what kinds of shots would work. And the thing that gave to us was 2 things. One, we weren't sure where the horizon line should be. Should the George Washington Bridge be vertical or horizontal, and when should it switch? And the second thing it gave us was, early on we thought we'd just attach the camera to the side of the building, and so the way the set worked was we had a dance floor, and then we had Nina and Benny in a fire escape, and then the fire escape tips down, and then they're dancing, and you feel like you're defying gravity.
The problem that we came across when trying to design that was that this rotating wall wasn't going to be ready for us to rehearse on. So we had to start designing everything beforehand. And so our rehearsals were on a floor, and we put benches down as if they were, or the dancers, the choreographers put them down as if they were fire escapes. And so they would dance on it. And then we would go there with our iPhones and like look at it sideways and try to get a sense, but we really couldn't get a sense of what this thing was. And every time we rotated it, it was really a big mind fuck, because we couldn't picture like what's a better turn and when, and the dancers could only do it so many times. So by capturing them, by having a motion capture, capturing their movements, which we did on a floor and in a space, then we could go in VR wise, and it would just be on repeat, and we could be in a volume, and then Alice and I could have the tools to say, hey, what if this angle was like this? What if this angle was like this? Or what if this movement was like this? And so it allowed us to paint. That's an amazing tool to be used in any scene.
Everyone on the crew can agree 96,000 was probably the most challenging. It was the very beginning of summer. We had to shoot the High Bridge swimming pool before it opened for summer. They get something like 5,000 visitors a day. It's the biggest pools I've ever seen. The week we were shooting, it was raining every day, and it was only like our 3rd week of filming, and it was just hard, first of all, being in the elements, but then also the swimming pool was freezing cold for all the dancers and the cast. And so Jon actually jumped in the swimming pool and spent 3 days in the freezing water with everyone, because he's a great director who cares about everyone.
We went there. We went to Washington Heights. It was the best thing we ever did, even though it was scary to think, how are you going to shoot in the middle of New York City and have dance numbers that you have to shut down, not just one block, but you have to shut down like 3 blocks to the left, 3 blocks to the right, 3 blocks south, and 3 blocks north. Like, it was a massive undertaking. And But what we really wanted to do was lean into, hey, what does it feel like to live here when you're a kid? And Lin would take us on these tours and he would show us the magical places. Hey, this is the tunnel where I would shoot my student film, or hey, here's the best cafe con leche. And we fell in love with the neighborhood as much as he showed us how much he was in love with this neighborhood. By the way, he still lives there. And same with our writer, Kiara. So I think it was for Alice and I, and for Chris, it was like, learning and listening and falling in love as well, and then leaning into those beautiful things. Hey, that bodega, you know, if you walk past it, you may not pay attention to it and just say, oh, those are just lottery tickets, but actually that embodies like dreams and hopes and ideas that people come in every day with. You know, when you go into that bodega, that little stool that's probably been there for 30 years that has all the stickers on it is like some kid's playground. And so I think that that's what we really wanted to, like, this was a beautiful place, and that every scratch and every faded color or new color, that this place was colorful and vibrant and full of life.
We've got different kinds of night scenes because we have this whole blackout number. Our first night scene actually in the whole movie is the dinner scene. We've got our entire cast at the dinner scene, and this is the promise of this amazing evening ahead. Everything feels warm and yummy and so delicious and comforting and family, and then it's very quickly we have all this turmoil build up with the fight and crash. We go from this really warm night dinner scene into the club, and we've got lights moving around. We've got this deep, rusty amber color with some cyan, and then we go into blackout. And so everything's constantly changing.
Paciency Fe is a big number where our Abuela Claudia goes into her past, and we see her adventure to come to America. And what I love about this is, like, usually those numbers in a musical movie are sort of throwaway numbers. They're like, oh, this is the old person number, and we won't give it like the guts and glory it is. And oftentimes when we talk about our parents my parents came from Taiwan and China to the United States, I go, oh yeah, they came to the United States. But that skips over the amazing rock star journey that it takes to actually say, oh, this isn't working for me. I'm out. I'm taking my whole family and going somewhere else. And so we wanted to reflect that in a number, and I'll let Alice take it from here, but to create this romantic idea of this journey for her to come to America at this moment in her life where she's questioning whether she should stay here was really interesting. It's a portrait, really.
An elegant ballet is how he wanted to represent this immigrant journey for Abuela Claudia. And we went to New York and we started looking at all these amazing spaces, these grand halls, and lots of these spaces downtown, old historic buildings near City Hall, and we went to event spaces all over. We looked at the Palace Theater in Washington Heights, which is a theater Lynn helped renovate and where we had our premiere for our movie in the end, but none of it felt right. And then we're like, well, we could just do it on stage. And then we started looking at these vintage subway cars. We ended up on this abandoned subway station on the D Avenue line in Brooklyn. I mean, it was end of July, so it was crazy hot in New York. And then you put Abuela Claudia down there, and you just let her go. And I mean, the second she starts singing, the entire crew was captivated.
In the sky for some sort of sign. Ay, mama, so many stars in Cuba.
Champagne is literally a whole number, and it's the actors and us. And so for Alice to figure all that out, I don't even know how you did it all. And for the actors to feel that vulnerable, both live vocals and no cuts, and to deliver in a very important moment in our movie.
The way it ended up happening was Chris Scott and Jon and I would meet on Sundays usually, and our day off. And one Saturday night I called them, I said, instead of meeting at Jon's apartment, can we go all the way to Washington Heights and meet in Abuela's apartment? And they're like, that's fine as long as you can get us in. And so we called security, we got into Abuela's apartment, and the three of us walked through that shot over and over and over again. And and sometimes Jon and Chris were Vanessa Nusnavi, sometimes I was Nusnavi, sometimes I was Vanessa. I mean, we just kept, and then we'd each take turns holding the camera, and we'd find things like there's a reflection in there's a mantle reflection, and then there's another reflection, and we in a piece in a cabinet, and we decided to incorporate those two reflections in. And so 3 hours we walked it through, and then the next day when we actually shot it, then we have Anthony and Melissa there, and they have their ideas too, and then we start to incorporate our Steadicam operator into what Jon and Chris and I designed the night before, and so all of this, evolving collaboration that starts, in Jon's brain and then builds out from there is how we make the movie.
I mean, you went through all this trouble to get us a little bubbly.
And it's gonna be okay.
The biggest challenge was finding our cast. Everyone kept saying, are you going to get actors that can sing or singers that can act? And I'm like, we got to get people who can do both. I'm sorry, like that's the bar. Because if you can't sing like it comes from the very pores of your skin, then how are you going to make this feel like it's coming from you as a character? You can't be stretching your voice trying to hit something. It should be coming from so inside you that it's like butter. And then you have to be able to act so that a camera can be 2 inches from your face and you can be saying the exact opposite of what you're feeling, and we know exactly what you mean. Like, those are the challenge. And so finding those people that embody those things. And then when they all get together, having everybody understand the tone of this musical is very different. How we were interpreting this tone in a movie was very different. And so I see the movie that you guys or whoever have seen. How do you explain that to someone who has never seen the concept or heard that concept of that movie? It is very difficult because everyone's like, well, that's not what musicals are. And you're like, I know, but like, we're going to the source, which is the music. And let's come from there. Let's come from like, when you listen to a song, when you're sad, like, let's talk about why. Let's talk about how it gets you there. Let's talk about how you sit. And so anyway, I think the hardest part is getting everybody on the same page, which just takes a lot of communication. It took a lot of meetings, walking them through every scene. So then by the time we show up at the dinner scene, for instance, with all the actors, everyone knows their role in this, and no one's ego is trying to take it over. They know whose scene it is. They know what they're trying to do, and yet aren't being just sitting back. They're all giving. And that's just trust. That was just over time, us all trusting each other. And we always kept an open table to speak. So anybody hey, this is not the sauce that we would have at our family dinner. Oh, really? How would you have it? Oh, I would get a homemade sauce and put it in a bottle, and we'd still have the off the shelf one, but then we'd stop and take 30 minutes to go to the store and get the right thing, with the right bottle, with the right rubber band, so that we could bring it. And that was the type of production we had to be. I am not Latino, so these were the things I knew how to make room for these kind of discussions, but I had to listen in a lot of the situations, and I think that was reflected across with everybody. Mentality had to be.
I'm just proud of the whole movie. I think the things we had to overcome making the movie and the incredible group of people we got to collaborate with every day and be with every day and listen to every day, and just the amount of joy on this movie was incredible considering how many challenges we faced. And so I'm proud of our movie as a whole.
I think the opening, which is a dream that we had and planned for a long time, it took the whole shoot to get all these pieces. And you have a song, an opening number to a musical that's as good as this, that introduces all your characters. And not only that, introduces you to the neighborhood. And I really wanted to have all these players, these community, we call them the community chorus, people who work hard for their families. And I really wanted to reflect this rhythm and beauty of working hard. This was a celebration of the bodega owner. If we could create that in this opening and make it fun all at the same time, that would be it for me. And that wasn't easy to convince a studio to put that kind of money and resources into an opening like that. It wasn't, especially when it has not a lot of plot elements to it, but it sort of signifies what our movie is about and trying to say. And we could have picked anyone on this block to make it be about. And again, this is another situation. We're pulling out at the end, and usually the big musical ends with the big wide scene, and you see everybody, and we're like, look how big we are. Instead, we went reversed, and this is also a last minute change, that we came in, and we could have picked anyone there to tell their stories, and instead we picked this one bodega owner, and we're gonna follow him, and we're gonna root for him. That was an amazing achievement for our team.
So I'm switching up the beat because my parents came with nothing. They got a little.
I think continuing this partnership, Jon and I have known each other for 20 years, and he's introduced me to other collaborators like Lynn. I got to do a movie with him after that, and I think I mean, the fact that Jon and I trust each other the way we do, and we've known each other for so long, and that we can be on this filmmaking journey together, and I think wherever we go next, we'll continue to grow and change and develop as storytellers, and I'm excited for to see what the next 20 years holds.
Until the day we go from poverty to stock.
There are no small stories. Everything that you think makes a hero is not true. Everything you think a hero looks like, feels like, dresses like, that is a construction of another storyteller. And the new storytellers are here, and we're gonna fill your brain with more ideas and more point of view in the next century. And I love that this storyteller, Usnavi, our bodega owner, is passing on his story to his little girl. And that this idea that this bodega, usually it's reverse in a movie, that the bodega becomes the beach. But in this movie, we start on the beach, and slowly but surely, as she's hearing the story, the beach, this place that she visits all the time, or she goes to all the time, that seems like a playground to her, actually is more interesting as a bodega because of the history and the people who were there and the things that have happened here. It's what it's like growing up in a restaurant when you realize, oh, this is historic. This place that I did my homework by the bar and folded napkins, this is where this restaurant started. This is where my dad's dreams and my mom's dreams started. I hope you get that from this movie, that you realize that anyone can have a musical about their life, and we would cheer for them, and that we are all coming from that same place as human beings.
We taking the flight to a couple of days in the life for what it's like in Washington Heights.
Thank you. I also want to thank B&H for taking all my money all the time. I've got an FX3 over here. I've got an A1 over here. I've got my, it's ridiculous. Sorry.